You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
I'm Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I farmed on the Marlowe plantation for 18 years. I had charge of keeping up with the time and paying off, and I went down the 31st of August to try to register. And after I had gotten back home, Mr. Marlowe told me that I would have to go down and withdraw my registration or leave because they wasn't ready for that in Mississippi. And I said, Mr. Marlowe, I'm trying to register for myself. So I had to leave that same night after I had gone down in August. And then I spent one night with Mrs. Tucker, and after about 2 days in September, they shot in the house 15 times, thinking that I was there.
Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer walked with a limp and still had a blood clot behind her eye from being severely beaten by police in a Mississippi jail. She was the youngest of 20 children born to sharecroppers in Mississippi, where she had spent much of her life picking cotton until she was fired for trying to register to vote. And yet, President Lyndon B. Johnson was terrified of her, terrified of the appeal she would make in 1964 before the Democratic National Committee's credentials panel on behalf of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. The Freedom Party, an integrated coalition of delegates, had come to Atlantic City on August 22nd, 1964, to challenge the all-white Democratic delegation from Mississippi, many of them rabid segregationists. Hamer demanded that the Credentials Committee seat the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party delegation instead. Johnson, who needed the support of Southern Democrats to win re-election, was beside himself. He told advisors he couldn't take the pressure. Last night I couldn't sleep, he said, according to the White House tapes. About 2:30, I woke up. I do not believe I can physically and mentally carry the responsibilities of the world and the Negroes in the South. He wanted Hamer and her new political party stopped. The president, who would eventually sign the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964, sent political advisors to persuade Hamer not to make her appeal to the Credentials Committee. When she refused, Johnson called an impromptu news conference to make it impossible for the national television networks to cover her testimony live. It didn't matter. Hamer's testimony would become one of the most powerful speeches of the civil rights movement. Hamer, born 100 years ago, on October 6, 1917, in the Mississippi Delta, rivaled Martin Luther King Jr. in her command of audiences. My grandmother had the privilege of knowing Miss Hamer. And Miss Hamer, from her definition, was one of the most powerful women that the world had ever seen. And I'm not talking about black women. I said the most powerful women that the world had ever seen. She did not possess high education. She possessed spirit, will, and faith. Rest in peace, Miss Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mississippi is still a very rough place. People is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way. they can let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this lead me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
The truth has set me free.